Presentation of Shooting Elephant. Shooting Elephant by George Orwell is an essay about his own experience, published in 1936. The story takes place in Burma, a former British colony which belongs to India when George Orwell works there as a police officer from 1922 to 1927, while British Empire is declining. What is the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized people? Generally, it is control and anti-control, exploitation and anti-exploitation, oppression and anti-oppression. From the story, we can see that the colonizer wants to control the colonized people, but the colonized people, Burmese, hate them as their enemy. In the beginning of the story, Orwell writes, "In Burma, I was hated by large numbers of people. As a police officer, I was an obvious target and was beaten whenever it seems safe to do so. The sneering yellow face met me everywhere. The insults hooted after me. The Buddhist priests were the worst. They ear at your pains." Here we can see that as colonized people, Burmese do not accept the colonizer to be their governor. They hate them and against them as possible as they can. Why the colonized people hate colonizer? Because the colonizer come to the colony is not as a colonial powers represent for doing a virtuous and necessary civilizing task involving education and protection of the colonized. In contrast, they are doing the sacred dirty work for themselves. It is evil to the colonized. As Orwell states in the text, at that time I had already made up my mind that imperialism was an evil thing. Theoretically and sacredly, of course, I was all for the Burmese and all against their oppressors, the British. As for the job I was doing, I hated it more bitterly than I can perhaps make clear. In a job like that, you see the dirty work of empire at close quarters. All this oppressed me with an intolerable sense of duty. This statement reveals the relationship between George Orwell and Burmese, which reflects the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. Control and anti-control, exploitation and anti-exploitation, oppression and anti-oppression. These are the nature of their relationship. Based on this point, George Orwell played a very thorny role. As he says, I was stuck between my hatred of the empire I served and my rage against the evil, separated little beasts who tried to make my job impossible. Here we can see he is impelled by his duty to the British Empire and also compelled by the wealth of the large number of Burmese. In one hand, as a police officer of the British colonizer, Orwell works for the British Empire. He needs to control the local colonized people to fit the British colonizers' sacred dirty goal. On the other hand, he needs the respect from the local people to make his job works. As a result, he needs always to play a role that seems serving the local people and meet their wills, but in fact, it is a contrast. This makes him feel even guiltier, and he gets something from it. We can see this when he already has made up his mind that he should not shoot the elephant, but in front of the crowd native, he changes his mind to shoot it. He plays a role that seems saving his face, that does not be looked as a fool in front of the colonized people, but in reality, he feels himself is a fool. As Orwell describes in the story, I was only an absurd puppet. He wears a mask and his face grows to fill it. George Orwell's rule makes him fall in irreconcilable situation, which is as same as a contradictory situation between the colonizer and the colonized. The colonizer looks very strong, but inside they are weak because they are evil. They have to follow the colonized people's wills finally. This reveals that the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized, control and anti-control, exploitation and anti-exploitation, oppression and anti-oppression, can never be reconcilable. In other words, the colonization is guilty and the colonizer is doomed to be rewarded by the colonized people.